Big Rig Kid Show. Are you ready? Let's go. Here come the Big Rig Kids. Roll with the Big Rig Kids. Let's Sapphire the truck take you to such amazing places with the Big Rig Kids. Those helpful Big Rig Kids. See how they give and grow and get to know amazing things. Learn with the Big Rig Kids, and you'll see how it is to have adventure days and hang and play with all your friends. Because the Big Rig Kids know what it is to live a most exciting and inviting life is positive.
Oh, you caught me jamming to the Big Rig Kid song again. There you go. I love that song. Love it, Renee. But anyway, we have a very special and exciting show for you today. He's back by popular demand. As you all know, this man has shared so much wisdom and knowledge when it comes to finances that his aura it just speaks. It speaks richness into other people's lives. But before we get into that, I want you all to give a warm welcome to the grandmother that everybody loves. Her lemonade and cupcakes are all of that, plus some other things she's cooked too. But y'all give it up for Grandma Polly. Come on now.
Hello. And happy Thursday. I had a wonderful week. I hope your week was as great as mine. And I want to welcome you all. I want to thank you all for joining us. I want to give a great big thanks to my brother for that awesome welcome. And today we're not going to prolong this. You guys are going to help me welcome Mr. Osceola Thomas. Mr. Osceola Thomas is a licensed minister. He's also his nonprofit. He's a counselor for nonprofit organizations. He also wrote the book, The Streets Can't Have My Son, and that was the last thing we spoke about when he was here the last time, and we're going to kind of continue that conversation. He's also a controversial author of The Naked Truth and Why Men Hide Behind Their Penises. But without further ado, you guys please help me welcome Mr. Osceola Thomas. We're going to have an awesome afternoon. We're giving away a few prizes. And some of you probably already have the book from the last time he was on. But if you don't, go out and get it. Order the book. It's very interesting. Let's bring Mr. Osceola Thomas on with lots of love. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, I mean, we're not going to hold this thing up. If there is some, you want to give a little bit of more information about yourself before we move forward, feel
Certainly.
free to do that before we go into, our conversation.
Well, as you share, my name is Osceola Thomas, and I am a licensed minister, also a biblical teacher. I teach biblical studies, specifically end times or eschatology. Also, I'm a nonprofit consultant and proposal writer. I help groups create 501c3 tax-exempt nonprofit structures, and then I write funding proposals for those nonprofits to receive startup capital at the city, county, and state and federal level. And upon receiving grant awards, I help them create their evaluation methods to produce positive measurable outcomes so they can replicate their models and create subordinate chapters and create change at the grassroots level for marginalized and disenfranchised populations. To date, we have written grant awards across the country totaling almost $67 million.
Got to give it up.
Yes, and I have to say this again. I've told you this before, and I'm going to say this, and we're going to go into it. I am just overwhelmed, and I am ecstatic to just even know a man of your caliber. Because when we look at society, that 1% of us Black folks who come in contact with the law and mess up, this is what the news media and society puts out there, that we're all the same. And I cannot express it enough for the works that you do, And the people that you bring together is just outstanding. So if y'all were not familiar with Mr. Thomas, y'all please follow him because he does great work. So we're going to go straight into it. I'm going to read a piece that you posted, and it said, we don't teach our children to be financially literate. We're going to produce another generation of debt slaves who are more concerned with looking rich rather than being rich. And we're going to start the conversation right there. But elaborate on that for me, please.
That was a Facebook post. I did that a couple weeks ago, and the reason I did that is because it's a true statement. You know, our children are taught to go to school. You know, the K through 12 continuum, and once they graduate secondary schooling and receive their high school diploma, is every parent's dream that their child then go to college. But college, for the most part, teaches your child how to become an employee. We live in capitalist America. And if your child doesn't understand capital and credit, they will be a debt slave for the rest of their life. So it's not about college, it's about capital and it's about credit. So we have to make sure that we are producing a financially literate generation of children. The sad reality is that most of our children leave their post-secondary with their degree, and then they don't know what they're going to do next. Or now they're out here in debt because of student loans, and they're hoping someone will hire them, but the wage that they're making is not a livable wage because now they have all of their monthly fixed expenses plus student loan debt, and they're making a beginning salary. And a salary is something that someone decides that they want to pay you for your skill set. This is what I tell parents, and I tell children the same thing. If the interviewer that you're sitting across from, if they interview you and they assess your skills and your talents, and they believe that you have the necessary skills to help them build their organization, why can't we see those same skill sets and talents in ourselves and build our own? So I'm teaching young people how to become entrepreneurs, how to understand capital, how to understand credit, and then create their own income stream and take the ceiling off.
That right there is so powerful. And I say all the time, I'm not a college graduate. And when I was in high school, these are some of the things that they have removed from our community, where they taught brick masonry, they taught carpentry, they taught plumbing, they taught us how to sew garments, and they pulled those things out of the school. Those industries is a multi-billion-dollar industry where you were getting the education on that, and you did not have to go to college. You didn't have any college debt. You didn't have any of those things. And then we switched over into a society that says if you don't have a college degree, then you won't qualify for this job and that job and this job. So I agree with you wholeheartedly. And in all the things that you're saying, how do we get back to that, Mr. Thomas? Because we have some parents who are financially illiterate.
I'm so glad you asked that question. So let me share this. In the book, The Streets Can't Have My Son, and I did this with, I was intentional on how I structured it in the book. Historically, under the Jim Crow era, we had segregation. You had the signs that said whites only, blacks only, etc. Today, we live in a society where it's no longer separatism by public places. It's now separatism by public policy. So now you have white children or Caucasian children and gifted and talented, but we segregated black children to special education or exceptional children classes. That was done intentionally because research shows that black children, specifically the subgroup of black males, they learn physically or with their hands. They're called kinesthetic or tactile learners. So when you have vocational programs in the schools, black children, black males, they were excelling and they were doing well because they were able to use their hands, carpentry, electrician, plumbing, etc. So they had to remove those because once those black males graduated high school with a trade, they were then able to go out and make a livable wage and live a decent station of living. So now we have to remove that from the school system if the goal is to create a preschool to prison pipeline.
Mm.
And see, this whole conversation, it all goes back to, and I really don't want to get too political tonight because, but it's really the truth. The goal is we have the prison industrial complex, and so we have to keep those prison beds filled because prison is a multi-billion. It's one of the highest traded stocks on the stock exchange, and so prison beds are even projected by the failure rate of third and fourth grade reading statistics. So
Wow.
how do we keep that pipeline full with black and brown boys? We have to make sure that they don't fare well in school. And the number one predictor that a child will drop out, it used to be poverty percentages. But now we've come to find out that it's suspension data. If a child has multiple suspensions, the likelihood of him dropping out of high school is great. And the only subgroup that has multiple suspensions when you look at pre-K is your subgroup of African American males. They're targeted before they even enter the K through 12 continuum. So parents really need to understand that when you sit around that table for your child's IEP and you don't understand what you're signing, you need to really get someone to help you because you are becoming an accomplice to the murdering of your child's aspirations. So I took that whole acronym IDEA, which under the U.S. Department of Education stands for Individuals with Disabilities and Educational Act. I changed it to Individuals Destroying Educational Aspirations. And
Mm.
parents are an accomplice to the murder of their children's dreams. So the first chapter in the book is called Killing the Dream. So we have to make sure that we're fighting for those programs to be implemented within our neighborhoods. And that's why, as a grant writer, when I meet with the churches and nonprofits, I help them apply for Title IV-B legislation dollars, which is 21st Century Community Learning Center. This is a 3 to 5 year grant. They're able to take this grant and provide academic remediation services to make sure that our black and brown children are grade level proficient and demonstrating academic growth. But not only that, they can take those same dollars and create an enrichment component that focuses on what? Vocational programming. Then they can use those same dollars to launch a parent university as a part of their program and teach the parents financial literacy. If they haven't completed their secondary schooling, parents can now have a GED program operating out of this 21st Century Learning Center. And then they also are able to partner with a community college, and the community college can set up a satellite campus and come in and teach these parents skills and trades where they can now earn a livable wage for their children and move from governmental housing to home ownership. I'm on my way to Chicago next month to the South Side to show them how they can use governmental dollars to build and repair disenfranchised and marginalized communities. Biden has a $1.9 trillion allocation, and we're going to tap into those dollars.
Mm.
Yes, yes, yes. Ooh, that was a lot right there. Y'all, I hope y'all taking notes, and I need y'all to type y'all questions in there. Miss Felicia Simone, I got you. I got you. I got the book. I got you. And we, Kenny, could you post
Yep.
Mr.
The streets.
Osceola information in there? You can get it off of Amazon. Um, it's there, and I'm going to show you the cover again. It's so much. I've read this book 3 times now. But Mr. Thomas, I hear you, and the information that you gave just in that short spiel right there is so much. Now I hear you saying this, and I know you're doing it because I know you. But at the same time, it seems like it's hidden. It seems like it's hidden. How do the communities, how do we get these programs into these communities? When it comes down to building these communities up through the same thing that you're speaking right now. How can a parent living in a underserved community work to get this financial wealth going, come up, presented into their community, get that program working in their community. Tell us some about that.
Most definitely. So most of these dollars are earmarked for nonprofits, specifically 501c3 tax exempt nonprofits. So the first thing I would suggest to any parent, and if you could post my information, I'm receptive to having a conversation with any group that wants to create change at the grassroots level within their community, because these are federal dollars. Let me share with your listeners how grant dollars work, because most people don't understand what grants really are, because you're funding these grants. What happens is that after 1913, the Federal Taxation Act, the government started taking taxes from the American people. Your tax dollars were then allocated to federal agencies. So every year, your tax dollars go to federal agencies. Those federal agencies take your tax dollars to create grant programs. And those grant programs align with the policy of the current administration. So now every year, your state receives their federal allocation. And then the state creates something called an RFP, request for proposals. They're requesting proposals from nonprofits to render services in accordance with federal policy. And if you receive those dollars, these are generally multiple year grants. So when the state advertises an RFP, a nonprofit can then say, well, we're going to submit a proposal since the state is requesting proposals. You then submit a proposal. The state convenes a grant review committee. They then score these proposals, and the highest scored nonprofits in the community receive dollars. Now you have dollars to create programs and services for 3, 4, or 5 years. But after each year, the state wants you to provide something called outcome data. Did you serve the number of families you said you would? Did you reduce juvenile delinquency? Did you improve student academic outcomes? You submit your data. Your data, along with all of the other data from all the nonprofits from around the 50 states, all of that outcome data is then reported back to these federal agencies. The federal agencies compile their report and submit it to the government. And then the government gives that information back to the American people through our commander in chief in the form of a State of the Union address. The president could never say our union is strong without nonprofits driving policy on behalf of his administration to the American people at the grassroots level. So when you create a nonprofit, you're creating the most powerful vehicle for communal change in the country. So I bring communities together. So if you had a parent that was concerned with an issue going on in their community, I would meet with that parent and I would say to them, based on the general statute for your state, you must have a minimum of 3 board members. We're going to identify you as the founder, CEO of the nonprofit, so you're the president of the board. I need you to identify a fiscal officer or a treasurer, and I need you to identify a secretary who serves in a dual capacity, corresponding and recording secretary. Once we have those 3 members, we're going to submit articles of incorporation to the Secretary of State. Now, let me explain what that means. Black's Law Dictionary says a corporation is a separate legal person. You're creating a legal person. The articles of incorporation that goes to the Secretary of State, that's the corporate birth certificate. The Secretary of State is the corporate maternity ward. You submit that birth certificate and they file it. Now you've created a legal person. The IRS says now it must have an EIN, employer identification number, which is also a TIN for tax purposes, tax identification number, which is the corporate social. Now you've created a state nonprofit, and we're going to ask the IRS to grant your state nonprofit federal tax exemption because you're religious, charitable, educational, scientific, literary, etc. That's a Form 1023 application for exemption. Takes about 6 months for you to receive it. Once you receive that designation, we're then going to apply for dollars. Here's a true statement. And for those of your listeners, documentation beats conversation. I have letters of reference. Mr. Will Mitchell in Winston-Salem, first year as a nonprofit. I completed his 501c3 tax exempt paperwork. He became a nonprofit. That same year, we submitted his proposal to the Department of Public Instruction. He received a $350,000 grant award for 3 years. That's over $1 million. His first year as a nonprofit, his score, the highest score in the state of North Carolina, was a 97. His was a 94.6. He outscored the school district of which he's a teacher in.
Wow.
And so now he has this 3-year grant award. I'm sharing with him, you have a teacher's salary. He's now living off his teacher's salary, but he's taken his director's salary from his Title 4B grant, and he's earmarking that in a separate account. And I said, at the end of 3 years, we're going to take those dollars and launch you a for-profit Medicaid reimbursable LLC. And now the LLC will sustain your not-for-profit in long term.
I'm about to lose my mind over here, man. I'm writing, I'm typing, I'm writing, I'm switching scenes. I'm over here like, oh man, it's good stuff.
I hear you, but we're gonna put a pin right there. Guys out there in the audience, we are giving away 3 gift cards tonight. The first one is $5. The second one is $5, and the third one is $5. So Kenny's gonna come in with that first question first, the first trivia question, and the first person to answer this question will get a $5 gift card. Go ahead, Kenny. You guys got to go ahead now because it's going to give the answer in a few minutes. You got to put your answer in before it gives the answer.
Okay, I just stopped it. So,
okay.
Anybody with an answer?
Anybody knows the answer to this? If you don't, take a guess.
Take a guess. Take a guess.
We're talking finances tonight. Which of the following groups of people traded with whale teeth?
D, Africans. B, Carol Simmons. You know what I'm going to say to those answers?
Wrong answer. Wrong answer.
Anybody else want to take a stab? No. So now it's just one answer left.
So whoever puts it in.
Wrong answer.
Lou Esther. Lou Esther's on top. She won.
Tanya Blake. Tanya Blake said A. She was the first.
No, Lou Esther. Lou Esther is the first.
Lou was the first one. They say A.
Yeah. A is the answer.
Okay.
So you get her information.
I have her information. Lou Esther said D, Kenny.
No, she was the first one to get it. After Michelle.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Got you. Okay, so you guys be prepared. We have 2 more trivia questions that's gonna come up. But Mr. Thomas, oh my God, you done dropped so much on my brain. Y'all people go ahead and put some questions out there.
They said they're taking notes.
Said I'm not going to win all, but I knew that one. Mr. Thomas, you gave so much in that aspect. I want to go back to the book little bit. And where you talked about bestowing the blessing.
Yes.
Now, I read the book and I understand what you meant by that. But could you explain to my audience what it means to bestow blessings upon our children?
Most definitely. So in the Hebrew culture, because that's what Israel in the Bible, they were Hebrews. So within the Hebrew culture, the father was responsible for 2 things: bestowing the blessing and bestowing the birthright. If you recall the story of Jacob and Esau, Esau sold his birthright for a bowl of soup. Now, a birthright is where a father would leave his eldest son a double portion of his estate, his inheritance. He would do that for his eldest son so that upon his demise, the elder would take care of his widowed mother and his unmarried sister. That's with one portion. The second portion would be for him and his family. So he received a double portion because he would be the administrator or executor of his father's estate. So that was the birthright, materialism. The blessing was when a father would speak a favorable future upon his son. Isaac bestowed a future upon Jacob. May the God of heaven bless you. May your brothers bow before you, etc. That was a favorable future. That's the blessing. The father would lay his hands upon his son. He would speak that into his son's life. So I'm sharing today that with 68% of African American households with no fathers in them, who's bestowing the blessing upon black boys? So it's necessary. And that's why, if you notice, when I'm on social media, I'm always saying, congratulations, young scholar, congratulations, young king. So I'm always calling our young black boys kings, whether they're in elementary school, middle school, high school, doesn't matter. They're young kings. I'm speaking that into their life, that you're royalty. As a matter of fact, I tell my children, I said, you are the visible manifestation of the invisible God. If God is omnipresent, omni meaning all, and present, of course, meaning taking up space, he takes up all space simultaneously. If that's the case, then God can't help but be in all of us. So I told my son, I said, look, if God is the ocean, and I take a syringe and I extract 5 cc's of ocean into that syringe, while that syringe may not be the ocean, what's inside that syringe is 100% pure ocean. So God is the ocean, and inside of you are 100% pure God. All the properties of God is within you. So I need you to walk and manifest God.
Mm.
That right there is so powerful. And I really do believe a lot of this is what's missing from society today. And you tapped on that, a lot of the fathers are missing from the home. And I also hear you say, you speak this over all of our black boys. And this is what's missing from our society today. It's not my child, so why should I care? I don't know this kid, why should I care? But it's all of our children. And we all have a responsibility to our children. And it's time we get back to the village.
That's right.
And where we speak these things and we plant these seeds and we nurture and grow our children because they are our future. And their future should always be, their accomplishments should always be bigger than ours.
Right.
It's like us being that root of the tree, but all these things are growing up through this tree. And then now these branches are branching off. And I think a lot of that is what's missing in our community today. Can you elaborate on that a little bit and how can we make a difference?
Through the village. And I actually call the village employing collective intelligence. So how can we, and this is something I share with pastors. Pastors have congregations, large congregations. And I ask them each time I sit down and meet with them, have you assessed the gifts and talents within your congregation? And most of them, the answer is no. They have not assessed the gifts and talents. And I share with them, do you know you're eligible to apply for governmental funding, contract through 1099, your congregation or your parishioners, and you can build a 21st century community learning center and rebuild this entire community. So I'm working with pastors now, one pastor specifically here in Bishopville, South Carolina, which is one of the poorest, Lee County is one of the poorest counties in the country, especially in South Carolina, called the poverty of shame. So they just received 4 years of grant funding. We collectively came together and created a plan looking at all life domains with the goal of leading consumers to self-sufficiency so that our people would no longer be reliant on formal services intervention. So in looking at all those life domain areas, we brought the banks together. So Wells Fargo was doing a hands-on banking program. The community college is doing an ABE/GED program, but they're also doing a CNA medical transcription. They're doing several classes for the parents upon completing their GED program. We have mental health at the table. We have the health department at the table. So we have about 12 different agencies at the table. And this is the village approach. So now we ask parents before we even created this plan 3 fundamental questions. What do you need? How can we help? And then how can we partner together to do what's in the best interest of you and your children? And so parents answered those 3 questions, and those 3 questions dictated our intervention. So now we have 4 years, and the university is at the table. The university is doing a longitudinal study. They're going to track the initiative over the 4 years to show the efficacy of the initiative. And then once we have those 4 years, we're going to publish it at the state level and go back for continuation funding until we've created a 700 credit score community, until we moved majority of those families out of governmental housing, until they've understood and learned how to grow their own food source and their children learns how to create their own shelter. And we're also talking about the mechanisms to create generational wealth so that we can eradicate poverty. And this will be
Jeez. Wow. That is
I tell you, it's powerful. But we have a question,
yeah.
and Ms. Felicia Simone has asked. We started a nonprofit, and now it's in the arm to our LLC. I am working on a few grants and would like to know if there is a template that you're aware of or an example of putting real estate in your nonprofit's name to use for your program.
Is there a template? Well, I'm not familiar with a template, but I will say this. If she has a nonprofit and a limited liability company, both of those entities are eligible, and please hear this, both of those entities are eligible to apply for Title IV-B dollars, 21st Century Community Learning Centers dollars. So the nonprofit can apply and the for-profit can apply. When the LLC applies, the LLC can then write in rental space. Or if you really want to be business savvy about it, she can pay herself as a director through the nonprofit, and then the director salary under the LLC, the group can earmark that for 4 years and use that as startup capital to purchase architectural structures or land acquisition. So you have the ability then to diversify.
I gotta hang on, Renee. I just gotta come in here. Let me just say, man. Thank you so much, man. I'm so grateful that you decided to share your wisdom and knowledge with us. I just can't even sit still over here, Harley. I'm writing, I'm doing all of this over here, like wow, and I'm just so appreciative of you, brother. So appreciative of you.
Thank you, sir.
I mean, it's great. Kenny, you want to go into a next trivia question so that then we can go that 15, 20 minutes without interrupting and then do that last question at the end?
Okay. All right. So next trivia question, guys. Which country was the first one to use printed paper currency in the world?
Okay, shoot your answers out here. If you don't know, take a guess.
Anybody? I think they're all marinating on what Mr. Brown just said.
I know, right?
We have one. Let's see what they said.
Wrong answer.
Okay, Karen Irick. I think she got the right answer. Yep.
Yes. Karen Irick, thank you for the correct answer. And if you would inbox me your information, we will make sure you get your $5 card. Thank you. Yes, Mr. Thomas. Y'all, only one person had a question. Is he blowing y'all away? And he do it to me every time. He does it to me every time. And we've covered, what the communities could do as far as the churches and as a family. Mr. Thomas, I'm just gonna be quiet because you blowing us away like crazy, and I'm gonna just you just keep talking. Tell us what you want us to know.
Certainly. Well, I just share with you that Biden has a $1.9 trillion allocation under the American Rescue Plan. Over $550 billion are allocated for children's services. So I really want your listeners to understand, I want you to picture creating this strategy. The young lady just said that she had a nonprofit and she had a for-profit. 21st Century Community Learning Centers funding is the only grant that I'm familiar with as a practitioner where you can apply for these dollars to serve youth and families as a nonprofit and a for-profit. So whether you're an LLC, S Corp, C Corp, it doesn't matter. You can apply using your nonprofit and your for-profit. But watch how powerful this is. Under the legislation, 21st Century must provide funding for a minimum of 3 years, a maximum of 5 years. North Carolina is 3 years, South Carolina is 4 years, New Jersey is 5 years. So when you look up 21st Century Learning Centers legislation, it will tell you the number of years that sub-grantees are awarded these dollars. The beautiful thing is that when you apply, you're eligible to apply and receive funding for up to 10 funding cycles. If you're in New Jersey and that's a 5-year award and you apply 10 years and receive dollars each competition, that's 50 years of funding. So what if you apply with your nonprofit and then apply with your for-profit and each entity receive funding for those 10 funding cycles? That's 50 years of funding under 2 organizational umbrellas. Could you not create community change? But watch how powerful this is. The highest juvenile crime hours in our country are the hours of 3 to 6. So 21st Century is a structured after school grant. You're providing structured after school services for Title I students. Title I is any school with a 40% or higher poverty percentage. So these are poor children. So you're providing structured after school between the hours of 3 to 6 under 21st Century, but also 3 to 6 is the highest juvenile crime hours. So under Biden's administration, the Consolidated Appropriations Act, that's for juvenile justice. Biden has the second highest allocation in juvenile justice history, second only to President Obama in 2010. So under this new Consolidated Appropriations Act allocation, they have a new initiative. Write this down. It's called the RED Initiative. Every state has a RED initiative and a RED coordinator. RED is an acronym that stands for Reducing Racial and Ethnic Disparities. Every state is charged now by the federal government to reduce the number of minority children being processed formally in the juvenile justice system. So the highest juvenile crime hours are 3 to 6. Your after school program provides safety, structure, and supervision between the hours of 3 to 6. So your structured after school program is also a juvenile justice delinquency prevention based initiative because you're diverting youth from committing delinquent activity during the highest crime hours in the country because they're in your structured after school program. Now you receive dollars from the State Board of Education, but you also receive dollars from the juvenile justice system because rather than incarcerate those kids or put them in security detention, they'll put them on a diversion contract and put them in your program for a year. And if they remain in your program for a year and do well, the charges that were brought up against that child is now dismissed. So now you're receiving juvenile justice dollars and you're receiving structured after school educational dollars. And you're doing this with your nonprofit and your for-profit. So I would say to that young lady, with your nonprofit, apply for 21st Century and juvenile justice dollars under RED, and then apply again for 21st Century dollars with your LLC, but earmark those LLC dollars for what? Become a Medicaid reimbursable entity. Purchase architectural structure so you can become a level 3 residential group home. or you can become a day treatment facility. Whatever it is that you want to do, the opportunities are there, the dollars are there. And I have startup nonprofits across the country doing this. As a matter of fact, I'm showing them how to use their nonprofit and take that capital, because I'm looking here, Miss Felicia, you can actually, under 21st century, you can earmark yourself a director's salary, administrative, but then under 21st century, if you also work in the program after school as a direct care provider, you can give yourself a direct care provider's salary, 2 salaries. So I would say, okay, Miss Felicia, I want you to take your director's salary, use that for your station of living, but that direct services salary, earmark that in a separate account. That's your salary, put it away for 3 years. Or if your state does 5 years, for 5 years. Now you have that salary put away, and you also have it through your LLC. We are just creating now. And I would say I want you to create yourself a real estate LLC, and I want you to create yourself a Medicaid reimbursable LLC. Now your nonprofit has just given birth to for-profit entities that will build generational wealth. And you can replicate the coordinate chapters. Sorry.
Oh no, no. I'm sorry. I'm just so
Asking you to repeat the RED acronym.
Yes. So RED is reducing racial and ethnic disparities. And every state has a RED coordinator. Every state. If you go to the Office of Juvenile Justice and Delinquency Prevention, in the search bar, you put in RED, reducing racial and ethnic disparities. You'll see links. You want to click on the link for RED Coordinators Direct State Directory. And you can call them and let them know that I'm a nonprofit or I'm a for-profit, but I would love to know when the RED coordinators meet, because they have meetings throughout the state to discuss the number of juveniles being processed to see if they're meeting their numbers according to federal statute. So you can attend those meetings and let them know that we would like to apply for these dollars. We provide safety, structure, and supervision during the high crime hours with our structured after school program. And so what I share with them, and this is Osceola, you have to understand, I meet with state legislatures every day. As a matter of fact, I just met with South Carolina Juvenile Justice today. And one of the things that I shared with the state administrator, he must have thought I was out of my mind. I said to him, I would never tell a child not to sell drugs. And I meant that. What I would say to them, if you have the skill set to slice it, dice it, capsule it, distribute it, then you have the ability to go onto a 4-year campus and enter into a program called pharmacology. Graduate, wear a white lab coat, slice it, dice it, capsule it, distribute it, and get a 6-figure paycheck, live in the suburbs, and never look over your shoulder. If a child is fighting, I'm not going to tell them not to fight. I'm going to ask them, can you fight? Because they could be the next Chuck Norris, Muhammad Ali, or Mike Tyson. It's a place for that, and it's called a boxing gym or a dojo. So I don't look at children from a deficit-based perspective. I look at their strengths, their interests, and their capabilities, and use those to build their futures.
mm-hmm. Do have a question here. This question is from Felicia. Can I have your contact info, and how can I have a full conversation with you as how much it's going to cost? I'm eager to utilize what we've built to continue to expand the access and exposure to our communities.
Well, please, I'm sure that my contact information will be provided. But this is something I'm doing across the country. I want to make sure, and I'm really challenging churches this year. I've really been on a push with churches to empower their communities, but any nonprofit that's willing to create change, I'm receptive to having a conversation. We have got to change the narrative for Black and brown children. So Chicago, New Jersey just brought me on to talk to their high school graduating class. And so they were looking for me to give some great words. And what I did, I made it very practical. The children were there, and I asked the children a series of questions. One of the number one questions from high school.
think
I said,
we,
now I want to ask you another question. I want you to look at the starting salary for that occupation.
Mr.
And see
Mr.
what you
Brown,
get.
excuse me. You cut
Sure,
out for a second. Can you go back about 10, 20 seconds?
sure.
Okay.
So, in speaking with the high school graduating class, I asked them, what major are you pursuing in college? And then I asked them, did they know the starting salary for that occupation upon graduation? Most of them did not. So then I asked them, I said, I want you to, here's your homework assignment. I want you to decide, where do you want to live when you graduate? What type of house do you want to live in? So they were to go on to a real estate site, Zillow or any real estate site, and look at the neighborhood and see how much houses cost. Then use the mortgage calculator so you can see what your monthly mortgage rate is going to be, or your principal and interest. So they were to calculate that. What kind of car do you want to drive? Then they had to look at how much that car would be. What about insurance? Now I want you to sit down with your parents and ask them about all of their monthly fixed costs. How much does it cost for water, electric, gas, cable, etc.? I want you to add all of those expenses up, and that's going to give you your annual total of how much it's going to cost for your dream life. Now I want you to take that starting salary upon graduating college, and I want you to deduct it by 25% because it's something called taxation. And that's going to be what is called your net pay or bring home pay. If you look at your net pay and it's not enough to accommodate the lifestyle, the dream that you want to live, you need to reconsider that major before you step foot on that campus. We have got to do the homework with our children so that they understand that, look, if I want to live my dream lifestyle, I need to pursue an occupation that's going to afford me the net income to do so. And parents have to start investing early. And here's some strategies for parents that you can start doing right now. If your child is in middle school and you have decent credit, you can make your child an authorized user on your credit card. American Express, uh, Chase, these banks, a child could be 13 years of age and on your account as an authorized user. You don't have to give them a card, but every time you demonstrate good payment history, they reap the benefits of that. And they can graduate high school with a 700 credit score.
Mm, that is,
1,009, a
I think we're,
home-based business.
I think we were losing you again on that one.
So parents, I challenge them to also create a home-based business. A home-based business will allow you to employ your child and pay them up to $12,950 a year, and there's no taxes on that. So now your child is a minor, they don't pay taxes. You now get to divert that income from your home-based business to pay your child. So now guess what? School clothes, you pay your child a check to your home-based business, they buy their own school clothes, they buy their own groceries. Everything that you would do for that child as a parent, you now write them a check through your home-based business, and they pay for that themselves, and you still get the tax deduction. So a
Mm,
home-based business could be anything. It could be, my wife does Mary Kay. But the reason my wife does Mary Kay is because guess what? We write off a portion of our house, our utility bills, our interest for our mortgage. We write off our utilities, our water, homeowners association dues, landscaping, and everywhere we travel, it's business travel. Everything I spend at the end of the year, Uncle Sam looks at his taxes. I don't have any taxes to pay because I've expensed everything out. And I'm living a life of luxury. It's how you position yourself and strategically position yourself with this game called capitalism. 55% of all taxes that the Internal Revenue receives is through W-2 wage earner employees. Only 10% come from business owners. 10% of the taxes the IRS collect come from business owners. So wealth is reserved for the business owner. Let's teach our children how to create their own business and how to leverage credit and capital. And the same thing for you as a parent.
wow.
Mr. Thomas, all I could say is y'all who watching this, go back and watch it. Because right now, I'm missing a lot because I'm mesmerized. And I do this every week. I go back and watch it anyway. Because he's given a lot of information. And I know you have some things that you're working on You just revised the book. It was this one, right? The Streets Can't Have My Son, or did you revise both of them?
Well, I'm in the midst of revising The Streets Can't Have My Son. I want to do an entire section on financial literacy to go into The Streets Can't Have My Son. I have another book coming out, how to form and fund your faith-based nonprofit. In that book, I'm going to put a sample grant proposal that I wrote that was funded for $1.6 million. So that's going to be in the book as well. So communities can use that to create their program design. And I also have another book that's coming out that's dealing with it's a strong delusion, why the church is not the church, where I actually teach that God never required a monetary tithe of his people. So the fact that we're extracting 10% of our parishioners' income, God is not happy with that. That 10% could be used to put away in an index ETF fund that could create generational wealth for their children, eradicate poverty, and achieve his mission, which was in the book of Acts, that none among us have lack.
Okay. I gotta go back and watch this. Kenny, your head's still spinning too, because mine doing like this right now. Who else is there with me? And I can't wait until those other books come out so I can read and not only just add it to my library, but add it to the knowledge that I gain from, reading other people's material, because that's a big part of financial wealth also.
Knowledge.
I may have some knowledge about certain things, but we have a responsibility to surround ourselves with the people who are doing the things that we're wanting to do, because no man is an island. And if you're the smartest person in the room, then you're doomed from the beginning. We have to continue to learn from each other. And Mr. Thomas, before I let you jump in here real quick, I have this I want to share. Guys, I want to tell y'all today is our last day until mid-August. I appreciate you all for, supporting and joining us and sticking with us through the year. But when we come back in August, oh, y'all, if y'all enjoyed this season, the next one is going to be the bomb, because Mr. Thomas himself has agreed to join us one Thursday out of every quarter. So at least we will get him 4 times a year, But follow his stuff on Facebook. Mr. Thomas, I have all of your information, but it's in my phone. If you would repeat your number, Kenny, could you type it in for
Yeah.
the people out here?
Yep.
Or how do you want them to contact you?
Telephone is I'll give them my business mobile, which is area code 704-497-3943.
You got it, Kenzo?
Yeah.
All right. Yes. I mean, the information is just so. Anybody have any more questions before we go into that last trivia, which is the $10 card?
Yeah. I got a question. I got
Go
an
ahead.
answer. I got a statement. I love the naked truth. On so many levels. I
We're
love
gonna
that
bring
book.
him back on that one too, but that financial thing
Is where
we're gonna
we
get you
are. I
back on that
know.
naked truth when we come back.
Yeah, Mr. Osceola, you just the way you think, the way you present the information to us to digest, is you bring it to us like a little child could understand this the way you're telling us, and I appreciate that greatly, because sometimes things get explained and you don't know what's what, but everything you've said was able to be comprehended. So thank you for that, and it's just you definitely know what you're talking about. That's all I gotta say.
Thank
And
you.
that one's available on Amazon right now too, right?
Oh yeah, the Naked Truth. Get that
Yes, it
book.
is.
Get that one too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, Kenny. I don't see the number. Did you hit send?
Here's this right here.
Okay.
Yep.
Maybe I'm running slow. Fine. Run that. Oh, I see it. I thought you was gonna put it in the comment. But
I'll put it in the comments too. Yeah.
run that last trivia so Mr. Osceola Thomas could come and just blow us away at the end,
All right.
which he's been doing the whole
The
time. My
whole
head is
time.
still twirling.
Man. All right. So this last question is the big one. It's $10. What is it? $10 gift card, right? Renee? Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. So here we go, guys. Y'all ready? I need y'all to show me some hearts if y'all ready. I'm looking
I
for them.
know. If y'all
Show me
enjoyed
some
this man
hearts.
tonight, give
If y'all
us some hearts
enjoyed,
and lots of it.
if y'all enjoyed the wisdom and the knowledge and the just the excitement around what he's saying, give us some hearts.
Yes.
There they go. All right. So here's the last question, guys. What is the most popular banknote in the world? $100 US dollar, 50 pounds sterling, 50 euro, or $100 cryptocurrency? First one with the right answer wins that $10 gift card. Come on now. I know you know.
Yes.
Take a guess.
And I pinned his phone number because you didn't put his name in there. You just put a number up there, Kenny, in the comment section.
All right. We have let
Who
me
answered
see.
it
Hold
first?
on, let me see.
Wrong answer.
Patricia Waiters answered it the right answer.
We have
Yes.
a winner.
Yes. And
Okay,
there it
thank you
is.
for that, Pat. And the answer is 100 US dollars.
Yes.
Thank you for that, Pat. And Mr. Thomas, woo, I'm just gonna say, just say what you got to say. We gonna close this out with you.
Well, again, thank you for the opportunity to be here. And I just want to say to those listening, many folks think that starting a nonprofit is a difficult task. It's one of the easiest tasks and I'll share with you again. 6 years as a solo practitioner, nonprofit consultant, and proposal writer, bringing in almost $67 million to nonprofits. Believe it or not, almost half of those nonprofits were startups, first year startup nonprofit organizations. The community needs you more than you think. So here's the thing, for those of you that have a nonprofit, the next time you go and you talk to your principal, make sure you go in with an understanding. Principals are over a line item budget. What do I mean by that? They have money for salaries, they have money for transportation, custodial services, etc., but they do not have money to address non-academic barriers that are negatively impacting student learning. Now, what do I mean by that? Let's say, for instance, Johnny is homeless, they're sleeping in the car. The principal doesn't have money to deal with homelessness. Also, Johnny is in a gang and he needs to be extricated or moved from that neighborhood to another neighborhood because once he's in the Bloods, he can't get out unless he dies. So he doesn't have money for extrication services. Let's say that, case in point, my wife was a teacher. Young girl came to school with a hat on her head, refused to take it off. Class can't go on because she's a disruption. My wife takes her out to the hallway. She removes her hat. Half her hair is braided. The other half is in an afro. Mom did not have the money to finish paying the beautician. That's not an academic issue. It's a non-academic issue, but it's impacting that baby's ability to learn. So principals have these non-academic barriers that they can't address. So they need nonprofits to come to their table and bring resources to help them expand their services array so that all the children in their business, in their building, have the tools and resources they need to be successful. That's where you come in. So you say to the principal, I'm going to apply for 21st century dollars. And I want you to look at your data from last year, all the students who were not grade level proficient or didn't demonstrate academic growth. I want to serve those students. And then, Mr. Principal, I want to know who are your most effective teachers, those teachers that demonstrated double digit growth on end of year tests. How about if I pay them through my grant to provide additional time on task in an after school environment for those 30, 40, or 50 struggling students, and you don't have to pay for it? The only thing that I'm asking you is so that this is a reciprocal relationship, is that you give us free or in-kind space in your building and access to your library, your gymnasium, cafeteria, and field services and transportation. Every principal that I've spoken with have always emphatically agreed because they're charged by the superintendent and they need all the support they can get. That's where you come in as a nonprofit. And then you partner with the school to show them how you're helping to improve student academic outcomes. You partner with the university to track those outcomes. And my clients know all they need is to show 5 years of positive outcomes, which the university will publish in their longitudinal study. And then I have them go to the U.S. Department of Education or the Office of Juvenile Justice to complete an application for their program to become a model of promise. Once their program becomes a model of promise because it has produced 5 to 7 years of positive outcome data, guess what? That now has national implications where nonprofits can now purchase your curriculum and use your organization to come in and provide technical assistance on the implementation of that curriculum. And now you are a national brand, and the rest is history.
Okay. Yes. Mr. Thomas, we just thank you so much for being here this evening and dropping this knowledge. It is just too much to sink in at one time. And I'm going to ask my audience, if you guys enjoyed this evening and y'all want Mr. Thomas to come back during our next season, I need everybody that's watching this right now to share this video.
Please
Please
share it.
share it
Please share it.
because people need to see this. This is how we educate ourselves. It did not cost us one dime to bring this man on the scene. All we did was what? Spent an hour and a few minutes, and the information that he gave us was free. And if we work with it and implement it, there's no stopping us. There is really no stopping.
Like McFadden and Whitehead.
And what is it? Ain't no stopping us now. Come on, y'all, we can do this.
We're on the groove.
And we're on that groove. So share it. Please share it. Share it. Tell a friend about it. Go back and watch it and tell another friend about it. Because this is the type of thing that we need in our community. This is the type of people these are the type of leaders.
Yeah. Osceola for
that
president.
we need in our community.
Yeah. That's what I'm going to make.
Is that a real question? Of course. Already going to share as soon as the recording link is available. I'm going to put it. Oh, thank you. We're on Facebook. It goes to YouTube also.
Yeah, it'll be on
YouTube afterwards. But Mr. Thomas, hey, I'm going to be talking to you through the summer, even though the show ain't here yet. I'm going to hit you up with a question here and there. I just appreciate you so much. Kenny,
hey,
you got anything you want to say? And then we're going to let Mr. Thomas close out.
Osceola Brown for president, 2024. That's all I got to say, man.
I'm done. He let me speak this. So, Mr. Thomas, we're going to give you the privilege of closing us out tonight.
Wow. Well, let me say thank you, Renee or Grandma Polly, and thank you, Brother Kenneth. I always enjoy the love and the positive energy when I come on your show, so I really appreciate that reception. I want to say to the listeners, starting next month, I'm going to be doing a Kingdom Mastermind. More so than being a nonprofit consultant, which I love being a consultant, bringing money into communities and changing trajectories for people of color. I love that. That's why I try to present as much information on Facebook as possible, because I want individuals to have the knowledge and the information. But first and foremost, I've been called to proclaim the gospel of Jesus Christ, and that's first and foremost for me. And so that's not building minded ministry. I always challenge pastors. You're telling people to come on Sunday morning when Jesus told you to go. So you're doing the opposite. He said go, you're saying come. And the reason that we're having these results in our communities is because you're doing the opposite of the instruction manual. So you can't possibly produce his product because you're not following the manual. So with this Kingdom Mastermind, my goal is to make sure that we're sharing as much information to help families become financially whole. So lesson 1, we're going to have all families assess their current financial situation. We're going to talk about credit repair. I'm going to provide free debt validation letters because you don't owe a debt collector a dime. I've had attorneys contact me in the past, and I've submitted letters on clients' behalf at no charge. And I challenged the attorney, and I told them, if you don't remove it, we will pursue judicial recourse. And they sent back letters. We apologize for any unnecessary anxiety that we have caused your client. So you don't owe a debt collector. We're going to assess your financial situation. We're going to do credit repair. We're going to talk about investments. We're going to talk about estate planning. We're going to talk about building generational wealth, insurance, 10 solid lessons that we're going to cover to make sure that you and your family are financially whole and that you're putting something in place so that your child has a birthright, so they don't have to struggle and start from ground level zero like you did.
And when is this starting?
It's going to start the 3rd week of July. I'll be posting that. And these, of course, I'm not charging anything for this. This is ministry to me. I don't believe in salaried pastors. And yes, if your pastor is salaried, to tell them I said it, I'll have a conversation. I don't believe in salaried pastors. We're not called to build brick and mortar. We're called to build people. And the sad reality is that people in the congregation are paying for a mortgage to a bank that won't even give them a loan. So let's stop building brick and mortar and let's start building people, the true temple of God.
With that said,
Mr. Thomas, Kenny, what you say? I'm making an executive decision.
Yeah, executive decision.
Before you start this, if you want to come back that week leading up to, we will do it. Yes, Kenny, we will do it.
We will do it. Yeah.
That would be great.
Just, you got my information. I got yours. Give me a date and time. You don't have to decide tonight. Yes. We will come back. That will be a special night. We will do this.
Let's change the lives of our people. Let's change these lives.
Ooh, yes. Yes.
I agree. So I know we're just like this, don't want to go, but we gotta go.
I know.
We gotta go. Right? I know he's probably got something to do, but we're like, no.
I know. We don't want to tie you up no more, but you can shoot me over the information and the date that you want to do it so we can get this. Yes. We can build up to it and get that announcement out because I'm excited about that too.
Yeah. Definitely.
And I just want to thank the audience. I want to thank everyone who tuned in. And remember to tell y'all friends, we're coming back for that one special. Then we're out for the summer. Love you guys. Thank you, Mr. Thomas.
Thank you.
Peace out. Grandma Polly loves y'all. And we'll be seeing y'all real soon.
All right. All right. We don't want to go, see?
Roll with the big red kids. Let's have fun here to try to you to such amazing places with the big red kids. Those helpful big red kids. See how they live and grow and get to know amazing things. Learn with the big red kids, and you see how it is to have adventure days and hang and play with all your friends. Because the big red kids know what it is to live. The most exciting and inviting life is positive. Sapphire with the voice of wisdom keeps the story rolling. And by golly, Grandma Polly drives them all to where they're going. Hop on in, everybody. Let's go.